Good morning, friends. Thank you for joining me again. My name is Lorraine, and today we're going to do a Get Ready with Me while I share with you, have a little chit chat about things that I used to use that I don't use anymore, that I realize that I can do without in my life, to simplify my life, that needs are not necessarily needs, that we can all do a very small part in being maybe less of a consumer and more of a minimalist. At least that's the direction that my life has taken. And so let's get started. I won't say too much about the makeup I'm using today, but the products are listed and linked below if you would like. And we're going to start with my glass of warm water with apple cider vinegar and the juice of a quarter lemon. This is my healthy drink that I start every day with. So welcome, and I'm glad you're joining me. Cheers. I do admit that I have a list with me here because I'm talking about certain specific things and I don't want to forget anything, but I certainly might have forgotten some things anyway. And so we're going to start out with plastic goods. Oh my gosh, so much plastic in our world today. Everything is packaged in plastic. So much takeout food is put in plastic. There's plastic bags of every description. So what I've done with plastic is I don't use sandwich bags anymore. Well, I shouldn't say anymore because I might use them occasionally. But what I will use, for example, if I'm going to keep half a lemon or half a onion, I will use the bags that you get at the grocery store that you put your produce in, those flimsy little ones. I'll keep those and I'll reuse those. And I can certainly, as long as they don't get wet and grubby, I can reuse those a couple of times. And it's the same with trash bags, the plastic bags that you get at the grocery store to carry your groceries home. I will use those to collect my trash, my kitchen trash. So I haven't bought a plastic garbage bag in, oh my gosh, it must be 40 years. Like I just never do buy those. Another way to save on plastic is these water bottles. Oh my gosh, people just buy cases and cases of these water bottles. And we have perfectly good water coming out of the tap. In not all around the world, I do realize some places don't have drinking water, but most of us watching this, for example, would have perfectly good water coming out of the tap. And then you can get any number of water bottles to carry around with you. So I'm very much against using all these water bottles. They're just littering the whole planet, and it just kind of breaks my heart. And another thing is now back in the day, we used to have these Tupperware parties. And Tupperware, for younger subscribers, was a company that created all kinds of shapes and sizes and colors of plastic containers that every young homemaker just felt that she had to have. And there would be home parties. And I went to several of those, and they were a lot of fun. You know, you would have the hostess demonstrating the goods, and you would buy a few things. Well, I don't think I have any more of my Tupperware. I never, ever buy plastic containers because I save the ones that I get my food in. For example, this little one. I can't tell you how many of these I have. Well, these are very good for putting in, I don't know, whatever. You cut up a lemon and put it in there. You can put in leftover cookies, or you can store all kinds of things in those containers and just reuse them. So I never do buy plastic containers anymore. Anyway, on to the next item. Well, I used to use talcum powder all the time, every time I had a bath or a shower. I would use it after that, and I just loved it. And I bought them from Avon. And Avon had all kinds of fragrances in these beautiful little talcum powders, and I use them all the time. Well, in the 70s, there started to be research done, and it was concluded that there was a possibility that using talcum powder could either contribute to the development of ovarian cancer or cause respiratory distress due to inhaling the powder. So there's been quite a bit of controversy, and I think there still is a bit of controversy about that. But in general, I don't think that people, including myself, use talcum powder the way we used to, which is kind of sad because I found it always a very kind of a luxurious little practice. I kind of enjoyed using it. But I have to admit that a few years ago, I just could not resist buying Imperial Leather Timeless Classic. Look at the size of this. I didn't realize it was so big when I ordered it. So I do use this, I have to admit, occasionally. I just am very strategic about where I place it on my body. And because I just love the feel of talcum powder after a shower or a bath. But it's not something that I use regularly the way I used to. Another thing that I stopped using was dryer sheets for my laundry. Now, I don't know, I just was feeling that, the scent wasn't necessarily that good to be inhaling whatever chemicals were in there. And also, I didn't really see the need for dryer sheets. I mean, what were they supposed to do? Soften your clothes and prevent static? Well, since I've stopped using them, I don't really see that much difference. My clothes don't have any static, and so I don't use them anymore, and I think I feel better for doing that. Plus, I mean, it saves a bit of money because to me it's not really a necessity of life, is using those dryer sheets. Today I'm using this e.l.f. Mint Melt crayon type of eyeshadow. I don't find it blends that easily, actually. It's a little bit stiff. So anyway, so that's that. So what was I saying about the dryer sheets? Yes, so I don't use those anymore. I don't miss them. My clothes aren't sticking together. They smell pretty good just from the laundry detergent, so I don't feel the need to have dryer sheets in my life. I really like things to be simple and uncomplicated. And plus, I don't have a lot of room. I live in a one-bedroom apartment, and actually I don't have a lot of stuff. And the reason for that is because I have moved a lot in my life. I've changed residence very many times in my life, always for a very good reason. In fact, where I'm living now, this is my 14th year since I retired. And this is the longest I've ever lived anywhere in my whole life, including my childhood. So on paper, I look like someone with no fixed address, but anyways, so moving on to microwave oven. I haven't had a microwave oven in many, many years, and I certainly had one. When they first came out, it was all the rage, and there was all these microwave cookbooks, and there's all this fancy cooking you could do in a microwave oven. So I did try a few things, but like most people, I ended up sort of heating up my coffee in it or heating a bowl of soup. So I didn't really use it for very much. Plus, I always had a little bit of a tense feeling about the microwaves, about the radiation coming out of them. Now, I know that they're made safely. On the other hand, if there is a flaw, or if it's an old microwave oven, there could be radiation escaping. So I've always been a little leery about that. So finally, And again, it takes up a lot of room in a small kitchen. So I decided not to have one in my life, and I haven't had a microwave oven. Oh my gosh, it must be 30 years now. I don't miss it. If I have to heat anything up, I simply put it in the oven, the good old-fashioned way, or heat it on top of the stove. Now, whether that takes up a little more energy, I'm not so sure. Maybe it does. I don't know. But I just don't like microwave ovens. And by the same token, when I was in my 40s, there was a couple of years there where I wanted to have a heated mattress pad on my bed. And the one that I had a couple of them actually. And what I would do is I would preheat the bed before I went to bed, because Canadian winters are cold. They really are cold. And just to heat up the bed about 15-20 minutes before climbing into it, it's a pretty luxurious feeling and very comfy. But eventually, I just had this weird feeling about radiation, going into my body. And sure enough, I did a bit of research, and yes, indeed, it does do that. Probably not enough to really harm anybody, but just the whole idea. You see, the thing is, years ago, we didn't have all this information so readily available. Because with the internet now, you can simply ask yourself a question, type it into Google, and you have the answer immediately. You can just even ask your Google Home the question and you'll get an answer. It's just unbelievable. But in those days, we didn't really have that information. And if we did, we had to go to the library or somehow get it. But I did have this instinctive feeling that I just did not like this possibility that the radiation was going into my body. So I stopped using a heated mattress pad. I think it's important to sort of stick with your intuition. If you don't feel comfortable with something in your life, for whatever reason, and your reason may not even be founded in fact, but if you don't feel comfortable, don't do it and don't have it, no matter what pressure or what kind of advertising pressure there is. You don't have to have it in your life. There are some skincare products that I don't use either. I've tried them and enjoyed them, but I don't feel that they're really necessary for me. And I've talked about this before. One of them is eye cream. I just don't really think that eye cream is necessary. I think that a regular moisturizer, whatever moisturizer that I'm using on the rest of my skin, is good enough for around my eyes. And so I just simply pat it in there gently around my eyes. And that's the same thing goes with throat cream and neck creams. I just don't really see the need for them. I just simply use my regular moisturizer. Today I'm doing a bit of old school here. I'm just going to use a pressed powder. This one is colored Fair. It's by Milani. And let me see what it says about it. It says it's a Conceal and Perfect Shine Proof Powder. Buildable coverage, mattifying, and it tightens the look of pores. And before I ever wore foundation, this is what I used to wear on my skin. So I'm just going to sort of do it a bit old school. And you can see the color of this. That's a good color for me. And another thing that I don't buy very often is books. First of all, I don't own a bookcase. Again, I really don't have room to have a bookcase. And I don't see the point. Once I've read a book, to me, I'd rather pass it on to somebody so that they can enjoy it. Because if I've read it, why let it sit on a bookcase? Now, of course, I could say, well, I'll read it again. And but believe me, I don't know. I think the only book that I've ever read more than once is Gone with the Wind. I did very much enjoy that book. And in fact, the movie is my very favorite movie of all time. So I like the way that goes on. So in the apartment building where I live, in the mailroom, there's a bookcase in there. And the tenants, when they have finished with a book, they put them in the bookcase. And it's very handy. It's very convenient because we just all go in there and we just basically are trading our books. And also, of course, there's a public library. The public library is always available to borrow books. I don't use the library simply because I don't like having a time frame about to read a book. I don't really do well with that kind of pressure, and I can't, and then I forget to phone them and extend the time, and so I would much rather just borrow books from the little library here in my mailroom, or friends give me books, lend me books. Usually, and my sister and I tend to like the same books, so we exchange books also. So my bedside table is full of books to read. There's no shortage of books to read. I'm not saying that I never buy a book. I occasionally will, but I will certainly buy a used one if possible from Indigo or Amazon. And but to buy a new book, I don't know. I don't remember the last time I ever did that. And another thing that I don't use anymore is high heels. What a heartbreak. Oh my gosh. You know, as a nurse, the first 15 years of my career were spent doing hospital nursing. So, of course, I always wore a uniform. In those days, we had a nice white uniform with a cap and everything, and of course the white shoes. And so I did that for the first 15 years. And then I started working in an office and I could wear real clothes. Well, this was pretty exciting. So I started to pay more attention to my clothing and my shoes. And oh my, I had some beautiful high-heeled shoes. I never wore the real high 3-inch ones. I found those were a bit much. But I certainly enjoy wearing my high heels. I felt very grown up. I felt very much like a lady. And but alas, for the last, must be about 25, 30 years, I've had problems with my hips and knees, and so I just really cannot wear high heels anymore. And certainly being retired, I wouldn't even have, and certainly with COVID, there's hardly any occasion to wear high heels, even if I could. But I do miss them, and I just loved my high heels, and I find that they are quite attractive on most women. I'm going to do the other side of this blush. With liquid blush, it's all about blend, blend, blend. It just takes a lot of blending. I've discovered my new favorite mascara, Sky High by Maybelline. It's quite lovely. Anyway, so the final thing that I don't use, and in fact I never did use it, is red lipstick. Oh my gosh, I think it looks so lovely. My mother wore it all the time. That's all she ever wore was a red lipstick. I think it was a Revlon red lipstick. But it's just, I think my coloring is too fair, and I just never really had the nerve to wear red lipstick. So I've tried it a couple of times, and as I've said before, I looked so much like my mother, I scared myself. So there you have it, and I would love you to leave comments down below and tell me what things that you have removed from your life just because you realize that you don't really need them, that they don't really necessarily add to the quality of your life, and that in some ways maybe it's a little way to help save the planet and just use a little less stuff. So I would love to hear from you. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put on my lipstick and get ready for the day and share with you my scent of the day. I'll be back in a moment. The lipstick I'm wearing today is by Wet n Wild, and this is a beautiful glossy formula, and look at that beautiful pink color. So I really like that. Wet n Wild makes some beautiful lipsticks. And my scent of the day today is Neige by Lise Wattier. This is a beautiful fragrance. One reviewer said that if snow had a smell, and neige is the French word for snow, if snow had a smell, this would be it. Clean, crisp, and sparkling. And it really is. And this is from Lise Wattier, a fellow Canadian. I actually was wearing this in a taxi one time about 5 years ago, and the taxi driver asked me what I was wearing, and he wanted me to write it down because he wanted to buy it for his wife. I thought that was so sweet. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me again today, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I'd love to know what are some of the things you've removed from your life. And anyway, don't forget to subscribe and put a thumbs up. And again, I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye.